Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie 500 project. We've gone through yet another season of indie games, and it's time to look back and see what we actually managed to go through this past season. First up, we met up with an icon from the early days of PC point-and-click adventures in Leisure Suit Larry Reloaded. Then we battled droids in Droid Assault, followed by the reverse of space-time continuum in Retrograde. We battled some historic monsters or fantasy monsters in Super Brothers Swords and Sorcery, followed by some slow pacing in Zenbound, where we colored blocks by tying ropes to them. And then we matched some butterflies to other butterflies in a match 4 game called Flutterby's. Then we actually managed to collect some gold and princesses and destroy some heroes that were trying to save said princesses in the Horde. We played Arkanoid, modern type Arkanoid. I'm not sure if that's a genre or if it's a game, but Arkanoid-esque type game in Shatter. Then we played both the first and second iteration of Sanctum, which combined the FPS and tower defense genre, followed by a Russian game called Eador, Masters of the Broken World, which was essentially a Heroes of Might and Magic type game. Then we took a planet and we put giant gods on them and made those gods plant animals and trees and mountains and minerals and reuse. Then we traveled through the time and history of the RPG genre in Evoland, when we went all the way from a 2D, 2-bit Game Boy-like kind of game all the way through the 3D genre that we have today. Following that, we went on the incredible adventures of Van Helsing to slay some monsters. And to fund said adventures, we had to go on a capers in Monaco. Then we visited the town of Torchlight for a classic Diablo-style RPG, followed by the next game in the genre, or rather in the franchise, Torchlight 2, which seemed to be a great improvement of the first one. Then we saw something that we haven't seen in a good way since the Super Nintendo era in Shadowrun Returns. Following that, we did some atomic zombie smashing in Atom Zombie Smasher. And finally, we managed to find some blocks made of matter that mattered. Blocks that mattered. So, what are the games that we went back to this season? Well, first off, we managed to make our way all the way through Larry's adventures in Leisure Suit Larry Reloaded. And we can say that the new additions to the old story are greatly welcome, and the puzzles are the same yet different. I'm trying to not spoil everything that happens in it, but we can say that the old fans will not be disappointed, and the new fans will hopefully not be disappointed by all the old-time references. We managed to play some multiplayer in Horde, which was actually kind of fun. The game doesn't really change that much since our first playthrough, but it's definitely a great time killer. Something we went back to and do still go back to now and then is Sanctum 2, which is the better of the two Sanctum games, just because it's been tweaked somewhat and they've worked out some of the kinks and stuff like that. And I gotta say, it's a really great just pick up and play game, and you have to learn how to play the labyrinths. You have to learn in what order to place everything and what to focus on, because the monsters are gonna change throughout the game. We really liked Reuse when we played it first, and we still like it. It's just that it is a very slow game. You have to manage to play through an era, which is a 30-minute play session, and through this play session you have to manage to do certain things according to an achievement chart, and when you do these things, then you unlock more things that you can do, other things that you can transmogrify your plants and minerals and animals to. And yeah, it's still a great game, but it is very time consuming if you want to unlock everything and do everything. And we're still ways off to getting everything that we want in this game. Evoland is a great game from beginning to start. It goes through so many of the classic things that you do with the RPG genre. We won't spoil anything, but it really does touch on everything that the RPG genre has brought to the video game market, and it is just beautifully done, and the story is funny, and yeah, just go play it. It won't take you long. It takes about 3 hours to get through or something like that, and you can get all the achievements, no worries there. It's just, yeah, go play Eveline. One of the things about the Indy 500 project is that we're not allowed to play the AAA titles, and one of the worries was that we wouldn't be able to replace some of the AAA titles, like Diablo 3 for instance. But I gotta say, we really look forward to playing Torchlight and Torchlight 2 more than we are actually missing Diablo 3, so we can always recommend Torchlight. And we haven't yet played Torchlight 2, but some of the things that we mentioned in the Torchlight video, for instance, toggle to make all the things on the ground light up so we can see what we want to pick up and stuff like that. Those things, most of those things that we mentioned in the video are available in the game, so you can do that. And also a great little feature is that when you feel that you're done with your character, can't move on, or you've completed all the levels, I think it goes on forever, but if you feel that you want to change character and you want to pass, you don't want to give up everything that you've accomplished in the first game, or rather everything that you accomplished with your first character, then you can actually make one of your items an heirloom, which means that it'll keep all the stats that it has, and it'll add one more, kind of like if you're doing an enchantment, but one more stats to it, and then your next character can fight, or rather equip that heirloom and start out with it. Not sure how the level requirements on the heirlooms work out, but it's a great way to get a little bit extra for your work when you start out your next character. One of the things we missed to show you in the Shadowrun Returns video is that there's this internet kind of Matrix-like game session, and it ties in really nicely to the combat system, because once your avatar is running around in the Matrix, your other teammates are fighting in the real world, and it basically is you get three rounds for every round. You get 3 rounds in the Matrix for every round of actual game time in the real world, so to speak. And we gotta say that even though this is a single player game, it's all about team. You cannot do this game alone. You need to purchase a team, you need to hire mercenaries, and yeah, it's one of the first games that we actually felt really involved in the story. We read everything, we were really invested in making sense of everything. It gets a little predictable, but it's still a great story. And we managed to find out how the saving and autosave system works, because that one is a little bit tricky. You see, every time you load up a new area, the game saves and then it autosaves, but you can't save during that area. However, what you can do is once you have a save, that save includes all the previous autosaves that you have for that character or for that play session, which means that you can rewind to a previous save if you feel that you've done something wrong, or you can't get through this section without doing something different in the past. Thing is though, that unless you select to rewind and copy instead of just rewind, then you will lose all the progress you've made from the point that you rewind to. So make sure that you select with care. And one of our favorite games that we actually didn't mind that much, we didn't notice it that much when we played it, but Blocks That Matter is a really great game to play through. It won't take you that long, and it's just cute and quirky. It's a puzzle platformer with lots to offer, because you can go back, you gotta figure out how to get all the treasure boxes, you gotta figure out how to complete all the levels with enough blocks in your inventory, and there's a great puzzle section that is just a challenge mode basically. And what would a summary be without a best and worst of the past season? So let's get to those titles right now, shall we? It's very difficult to pick a worst title of this season because there really aren't any bad titles in this lineup. And Flutterby's isn't even a bad game, it's just very casual. So this pick is not a bad game, it's just of the games that we played in this past season, this one was the worst. Not bad, just worst of the bunch. Picking the best of the season, it was very difficult this time around because we went back to great games and we played through great games, and we're still not sure that this selection is correct, but Torchlight will probably give you the most value for your money, mainly because Torchlight is free from time to time, and Torchlight 2 brings you the multiplayer that you're wanting from the first game. So we're gonna put the entire Torchlight franchise up against all the other games that we played this round. So it wins on the mere fact that you can actually find it for free and you get a whole lot of content, many hours of gameplay from a single purchase that is very reasonable. So that wraps up this latest season of experiments. Don't forget to check out our site, indie500.se or indie500project.com. Both addresses go to the same site. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/indie500project. Same with Twitter, twitter.com/indie500project. If you follow us on Twitter and on Facebook, you're probably gonna pick up a giveaway or something, because in the schedule for this coming season, we're gonna give away Grand Theft Auto 5 along with a bunch of keys for Origins and Steam games and bundles. And don't miss out on this because it's free for you. We've tried to incorporate some sort of charity function to it. We've tried to make the winners pay some sort of charity to just even out this project thing, but nobody seems to do it. So just pick up a free game, have a good time, and we'll see you next time. So until then, happy gaming. Modern type Arkanoid I'm not sure if that's a genre or if it's a game, but Arkanoid-esque type game in Shatter. Then we played both the first and second iteration of Sanctum, which combined the FPS and tower defense genre, followed by a Russian game called Eador, Masters of the Broken World, which was essentially a Heroes of Might and Magic type game. Then we took a planet and we put giant gods on them and made those gods plant Monaco. Then we visited the town of Torchlight for a classic Diablo-style RPG, followed by the next game in the genre, or rather in the franchise, Torchlight 2, which seemed to be a great improvement of the first one. Then we saw something that we haven't seen in a good way since the Super Nintendo era in Shadowrun Returns. Following that, we animals and trees and mountains and minerals and reuse. Then we traveled through the time and history of the RPG genre in Evoland, when we went all the way from a 2D, 2-bit Game Boy-like kind of game all the way through the 3D genre that we have today. Following that, we went on the incredible adventures of Van Helsing to slay some monsters. And to fund said adventures, we had to go on a capers in... Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie 500 project. We've gone through yet another season of indie games, and it's time to look back and see what we actually managed to go through this past season. First off, we met up with an icon from the early days of PC point-and-click adventures in Leisure Suit Larry Reloaded. Then we battled droids in Droid Assault, followed by the reverse of Space-Time Continuum in Retrograde. We battled some historic monsters or fantasy monsters in Super Brothers Swords and Sorcery, followed by some slow pacing in Zenbound where we colored blocks by tying ropes to them. And then we matched some butterflies to other butterflies in a match 4 game called Flutterby's. Then we actually managed to collect some gold and princesses and destroy some heroes that were trying to save said princesses in Horde. We played a